Welcome everyone to the Area 111 live stream. This is your host RH coming at you again from the beautiful sunshine state of Florida. So let me grab this volume check 5x5. And of course, we have that avatar again tonight. The George Washington and the commander in chief of the Army in 1775. I guess that's crossing the Delaware. Stand by. So what I like to do is actually read from the actual official or whatever information, and so I don't make mistakes. But I like to start off by recognizing the people that have died in a war that should never had started to begin with between, Israel and Iran. If they would have just accepted the the inspectors to go in there and make sure they had a peaceful uh, nuclear energy program and they was not developing nuclear weapons. A lot of people would have been spared. Their lives would have been spared. But of course we've been having problems. We can go back to the Beirut bombing, how they were indirectly involved in that. I don't want to go through the entire history of it, but anyways, yeah, definitely our heart and prayers goes out to all those that have lost their lives, including the Iranians who are basically victims of circumstance with a regime they've had basically been oppressed, I guess you call the word, for about 50 years. It's a lot of people don't even know the history of that, but I hope they would at least try to be objective and look at the true history of how the Ayatollahs took over. And it's been, no, it's basically, it's just sad. Of course, I support peace, and I keep on referring to blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Okay, that's Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. I always quote that. It's probably one of my favorite scripture verses. Anyways, I'm looking at this and it gets you kind of depressed when you think about these needless wars, including the one between Ukraine and Russia. That should have never kicked off, but a lot of people don't even realize that in 2014, Obama basically brokered a deal. He said on the Fareed Zakaria interview, CNN interview, that we brokered a deal to remove Yanukovych from power. And then, of course, he had to flee to Russia for his life, or they would have basically know what they'd have done to him. But because he had a peace treaty with Russia, you know, and of course, between 2014 up until the Russian invasion into Ukraine, there was approximately 12,000 Ukrainians killed by their own government. The shelling from basically ordered by Kiev into eastern Ukraine, killing, whether you like them or not, is immaterial. We're talking facts here. Ukrainian Russians or Russian Ukrainians, however you want to identify them, or just plain Ukrainians living in eastern Ukraine, lost their lives by their own government. So let's just put this in perspective a little bit. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine if the United States of America basically went into to Mexico and helped provide or form a coup. They called it brokering a deal. Okay, so we went into Mexico, right, and brokered a coup to remove their president, right, because he had a peace treaty with the United States. And then we started shelling, uh, you know, basically, or we started shelling, or shelling, or Mexico started shelling uh, Mexican Americans or Americans in Texas. I think that'd be a right way to put it. But, something similar to that, or our U.S. government started shelling uh, Mexican Americans along the border in Texas. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? I couldn't imagine that. But if some of these, I won't even go there right now. But now, last night's live stream, I believe it was last night or night before. I get my days mixed up here because burning the candle at both ends. That's what happens. Okay, I talked about one law for all of us. The supreme law of our country, whether anyone likes it or not, it doesn't matter what we like or we don't like. We have one law. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Now, the executive branch of government, which is led by the President of the United States and the Commander in Chief, basically, his primary duty is to execute the laws of our country. The legislative branch of government is the government that's supposed to write laws, right? To pass laws. And they've been, I hate to say it, but it's the God's honest truth. A lot of the Congress has been in the past writing laws to break laws. Can you imagine that? To write laws to break laws. But anyways, then we have the judicial branch of government, which of course is there to rule on whether a law is constitutional or not. They're supposed to be basing their opinions based off of the U.S. Constitution, not their feelings or their political ideologies, whatever. Not their politics, not their feelings, but off the U.S. Constitution. What we have now in the judicial branch is a bunch of politicians. They're not even basing their opinions off the Constitution. A lot of these people in the robes, whatever, they believe the Constitution is a living Constitution, and they can basically interpret it any which way they want, whichever way the wind blows for some of these judges. Not all of them, of course. But we have a lot of bad apples in the judicial branch of government as well. But this is the reason why we're going to go back to the invasion. There still has not been proper accountability for the people that facilitated and directed the invasion into our country. Now, you look at all these riots that are going on, in California and these major, mainly blue states, cities, whatever. This shit never got this far to begin with. For 4 years, we were reporting on the wide open border. For 4 years, we had people risking their lives on the ground going to the Darien Gap. Former Special Forces individuals had teams going into Darien Gap, conducting surveillance of the invasion, basically even conducting surveillance on Mayorkas as he flew into Panama, conducted surveillance when he visited the holding centers in Panama, where that was a staging facility for the transportation to bring these people into our country, into the districts they needed. Now, why these people have not been arrested yet is beyond me. We have the video evidence. We have the whole 9 yards. Okay, we go back. I kept talking about this. Acorn and, even CNN put out an article about the thousands of fraudulent registrations, voter registrations, thousands of them. CNN article. Just type in CNN article or Acorn fraudulent registration CNN. Type it in and you'll find the CNN article. Read it for yourself. Okay? It's accurate. Then there was organizing for action. Organizing what for action? They put together a 30,000 foot soldiers to call upon whenever they needed them. 30,000. You hear them out there chanting the same old chants. No justice, no peace. During these riots, the same chants, the same people. We talked about the crimes of funding interstate riots, the commerce behind it, whatever, paying these individuals to go out there and break the law, to terrorize people, into complying with the radical far left ideologies and communism, Marxism, socialism. Remember, one of those organizations put out their What We Believe, their manifesto, to destroy the Western nuclear cell of the family. Remember all these things, what we learned? It's not like we're all ignorant, but, the news cycle, the programming. They program one event and they get you to look at these images and you're kind of like fixated on these images, and those are implants in our memory, right? And then all the other stuff, it goes into another department as far as our memory goes, right? So a lot of people can't recall because they flash all these images while we're watching television. They're telling us a vision, right? And we can see the lies. We can cut through the lies. We know their MO by now. They're obvious. But let's see here. Now I had source reference for the interstate riots. So we need to act on that. I mean, quick, immediately. Now, as you know, they're having their so-called protest all around the country tomorrow. Something about kings, whatever, no more kings, whatever. So they're having all these protests all across their country. Okay, tomorrow. What was okay? Tomorrow there's this. Remember the seventh day. So we go back to the beginning of Genesis. Yeah, I think we should. Think it's time to actually talk about that. Going all the way back to Genesis. Starting with Genesis chapter 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. Okay? So the seventh day, you know what day that Israel was attacked on October 7th of 2023? It was a very special day. It was not only the Sabbath or Shabbat, right? They call it, I guess it is. But it was a holy day. It was a holiday on top of it. So why do you think they picked the seventh day? Because they had minimum manning. They had like skeleton crews, we call them, right? And they bolstered up also the defenses from the threat. I believe it was they bolstered the forces up in northern Israel, right? So they strategically attacked on that day. Okay, now we're having the U.S. Army's 250th birthday on June 14th, 2025. Of course, that's the seventh day, but, it's kind of like it's a really big deal. And I'll get into that. I do have an avatar photograph again. I didn't place it on the Rumble link, but if you look at 23 hours ago on my live stream, you'll see, and you'll see it on YouTube. I have the avatar photograph of George Washington with his army, and we're going to talk about that too in a second. But now, I hope the Iranian people are able to restore another, whatever they wish, the majority of the Iranian people to restore their government in a former type of government that, with its, they're not led by whatever. Okay, it's up for the Iranian people. And I hope they get a chance to actually put in the leaders that they want, the majority, the peaceful, loving Iranian people, not uranium, that we all loved. And, and again, the Iranian people, for the majority of them, they are victims of circumstance. They have no control over what their leaders do or whatever. It's not like in the United States of America where we have a lot of control over what our government does or doesn't do, right? But let me go back to this invasion that had started was really amped up the very first day that the Biden administration came back in for their third term, January 20th of 2021. They really amped up that invasion. And for 4 years straight, we were warning what could happen or, what is probably going to happen, with the unvetting and allowing people just to come across. Remember, they were blocking our journalists from even going to the border. We couldn't even go to the border. We couldn't even have a press at our own border. So how in the world do you have a free press if the press is blocked from even going to the border and reporting on it?